Welcome to Nuuness TV, a web series where leading ladies in athletic performance discuss the truths, challenges, and opportunities in being an active female participant in sport. I'm Emma Coburn, Olympic steeplechase medalist and your host for Nuuness TV. Meet Kayla Kobelin, a new to the pro scene female triathlete. Kayla is 25 years old and started running at the age of 7. Her love of competition started with a small road running race and has blossomed into a full-time career as a professional athlete in the sport of triathlon. So, Kayla, you have covered so many different sports from snowboarding to obstacle course racing, running, triathlon. Can you talk us through that process and how you kind of settled into where you are now?
Yeah, totally. So I kind of actually fell into triathlon. I never intended to go that route, but I started running when I was 7, doing local road races with my mom. Fast forward to I was about 13, I got into snowboarding. From there, I picked that up pretty quickly, became sponsored, homeschooled, and would travel around and compete for races and competitions there. When I was 17, I fractured my neck just before going down to a competition in a practice run. And I remember getting to the hospital just thinking there's no way I can just keep on this path of continually breaking these bones. I'm going to end up in a wheelchair.
Which for a 17-year-old is a very mature thing to have realized.
Right.
You know, most people just keep going and going.
Yeah. And I didn't want to be in a wheelchair when I was 30. So I thought, okay, what can I do that I'm good at and that I can still do a sport that I love? And that brought me back to running. And around that time, I was 19, and that was when obstacle course racing kind of started blowing up and getting big, and Spartan came around. And I had some success there. And I liked obstacle course racing because it was a great balance of being strong, but also being a fast runner. So I loved that. At that time, I was living with my grandma, helping take care of her. I was working at a corporate job in downtown. I bought this bike for $50 off of Craigslist. I thought I knew everything there was to know about bikes because I was riding 2 miles a day. And I remember riding home one day on this old bike, just thinking, well, I clearly already know how to ride a bike. I know how to run. If I learn how to swim, maybe I could do a triathlon. So that was it. I went home the next day and I signed up for my first triathlon, which was a 70.3 distance. I had 4 months to train. I had no coach, no training plan. I had no idea what I was doing, but I was very cocky, thinking that I knew everything there was to know about
Craigslist
this
bike, yeah.
Yeah. So I show up, I do the race. It went so badly. I had to get help being clipped into my bike. I didn't know how to shift gears. I had a great run, but I just went into it extremely cocky, thinking I knew everything there was to know. To finish the race, realizing I actually knew nothing about the sport, but it didn't matter because I was hooked. Mm-hmm. I loved it. Even though I was not the best at all, I was totally hooked. So the week later, I interviewed coaches and I grabbed a coach who I still have today. And he's kind of coached me through where I am now.
Wow, that is an unusual path to getting into being a professional triathlete, but clearly your athletic background prepared you so well to kind of be able to handle the challenges and try. So you said you worked in a 9-to-5 job while training full-time also for a triathlon before you got your pro card.
Totally.
How did you balance that time? What did your days look like?
So to be honest, there really wasn't much of a balance, I would say. I worked a 9-to-5 corporate job, and I was also trying to train 20 hours a week. So balancing like 60 hours of work and training wasn't really sustainable. I did it for about 3 years, but the last 6 months or so of that was pretty rocky. My day would look something like this. I'd wake up at 4:30. I would train, shower, go to work, be in the office for 8 hours, go home, either take a power nap or eat, and then go do my next workout, come home, eat more, and go to bed. So in that day, there's not much room for doing laundry, going to the grocery store, talking to your friends. So although I made it work in the time frame, it definitely was not sustainable.
So then when you made that transition and became a full-on professional triathlete when giving all your time, how did the people in your world react to that? Did they support it, or did they think you were a little crazy for giving up a steady job of, your 9 to 5?
Yeah. So the thought of me even becoming a pro athlete, like, wasn't even in my mind. I qualified in 2018 and I sat on it for a long time. I just thought there's no way I'm going to do that and leave the comfort of my routine, my nice, comfortable paychecks, my great health insurance. Like, why would I ever leave that? But I think finally what it came down to was I actually didn't believe in myself that I could do it. But once I believed that, okay, you know what, I actually can do this, then I reached out to my support and my family and my boyfriend thinking, hey, am I crazy to try this? And I was floored that all of them said, there's no way you're crazy. Go for it. Like, you got to chase your dreams. Not a lot of people get an opportunity to pursue their dreams. Anybody can go work in a corporate job. And that's what it came down to for me was I can always go back to that type of job if I want to, but there's only a narrow window of opportunity, which you're aware of.
The office will always be there.
Yeah. You only get a certain window to like pursue an athletic dream. This isn't something I can do when I'm 40.
And to your point, very few people in the world get the opportunity to pursue it.
Right.
So it would feel like a waste to not take that opportunity. So you were working 40 hours a week, training 20 hours a week. What did that transition look like once you became a pro? Was it you filled up that time training, or was it just a better balance of recovery? And how did that affect your performance? How did your schedule totally shift?
So I will say at first, the first couple months of having this newfound
freedom,
pro athlete life, I almost went from like 100 to 0. Right? Because I was, every second of my day was planned out and I had no wiggle room. And then I went to having all the wiggle room in the world. I kind of went crazy in the sense of like, I just tried to find random things to still occupy my time to make myself feel like I was still being like helpful and doing something
productive.
Which looking back now probably wasn't the smartest idea, but it was the only thing I knew. Whereas now that I've kind of accustomed to this new freedom, I'm definitely a lot more aware of like how I space my workouts, the importance of how much sleep I get, the importance of recovery, right? Where recovery isn't going to the grocery store and doing your laundry. It's sitting on the couch, hanging out,
your Normatec boots on.
Drinking a smoothie. Yeah. Whereas before, like I wasn't okay with that, right? I didn't feel like I was being productive. Whereas now I
think a lot of people struggle with that. I have so many friends who are professional runners that I always thrived in doing nothing and training really hard and then resting, but I still find myself too busy sometimes. But a lot of my friends are the same way, that they think if they're not achieving and doing things throughout the hours of the day, that they're being lazy. But like, no, a big part of our job is to recover and nap and watch TV and be on the couch. And it feels like you're being lazy, but no, that's our job. Right. So it's a little weird. I think that's a surprising part of the job that people don't necessarily give enough weight to, is the recovery.
Totally.
Was that the most surprising thing to you with the transition, or what was the most surprising thing to get used to, or thing that you encountered when you transitioned fully?
There's probably a couple surprising takeaways that I took away from this drastic change, which was, I think I had this idea in my head of like a life of a pro athlete and how it should look and how their entire day is just going to be working out and recovery and that's it. Where once I got into that world, I realized your daily life duties don't go away. Like you still have to go to the grocery store and cook dinner and make time for your friends and plan stuff and
sponsor commitments and the whole other world.
Forgot about that stuff and I was like, oh, nope, I still have my other life that I have to take care of as well. And another surprising thing I didn't really think about is, when you get your pro card in triathlon, it's just an email with your card number saying, hey, this is it. It's a very underwhelming experience to get that email. Whereas I had it in my head that it was just going to be this just amazing thing. And there's no guidebook or step 1, step 2, step 3. Great, you're a pro athlete. Here's what you do next. There's nothing. So it was almost a bit overwhelming because I didn't get told what to do next. This is what you do. It's not like a flood of new sponsors came in as soon as I got this email.
Right.
So I almost didn't feel like a pro athlete at first because nothing really changed for me besides the giant amount of time I had during the day to train.
Yeah. In your first year with your pro card, what does goal setting look like for you? And do you rely heavily on the people around you to help achieve those goals and push you to reach bigger goals, or what does that look like?
I would say goal setting looks a little bit differently now that I'm a rookie pro versus when I was like a top age grouper. As an age grouper, I would just look to just win every race I did, right? And now I'm a very small fish in a big pond. So my goal isn't to go into every race and win it. My goal is I take smaller goals and just think, okay, how can I get a swim PR? How can I shave seconds off my bike? How can I make my run faster? So I think then if I break up these smaller goals into like get faster individually in each sport, eventually I'll just become faster all around and then hopefully start winning.
Okay, so in your first year, what are the challenges that you've been facing and been working through?
So there's been 2 big challenges I've been working through. One was pretty unexpected. In February of this year, I was diagnosed with a life-threatening peanut, tree nut, and fish allergy.
How did that happen?
I have no idea. I was eating a salad after my swim. It had pistachios in it. I was with my boyfriend. I was like saying, hey, something doesn't feel right. He's like, maybe you're just anxious. Don't worry about it. I thought, yeah, you're right. And within minutes, I just thought, no, this is more than that. And I told him, like, you need to call 911. Like, something's going on. So they call 911, and sure enough, I'm having a full-on anaphylactic reaction to pistachios. Come to find out, in the coming weeks, I found out I was allergic to fish and peanuts and more than just pistachios on accident, accidentally eating all of these. So I ended up having 5 allergic reactions in 5 weeks in the month of February and March.
Oh my gosh, wow.
So that definitely took a damper on my...
Were you eating these foods prior to this happening and feeling fine?
I was a vegan prior to this. So I was eating lots of nuts. I wasn't eating fish, but I would eat nuts every day.
Yeah.
And just one day my body just said, no more.
Wow.
So that was a huge, huge adjustment. And it's something I'm still working on because I can't eat basically so many of the foods I've been eating for the last 25 years of my life. There's a lot of restaurants I can't go to, which totally has an impact on like my social life and how I plan for races. Because some of the races do offer bars with nuts on course, and there's nothing I can do about it. I just have to be self-supported. That's been pretty hard.
That's a huge challenge. I mean, our bodies, we are so in tune with our bodies, and everything that we put in our bodies is so important, and how we fuel, especially in your event, triathlon, where you do get fuel on the course, like that must be so crazy to have to deal with that transition right now. But
yeah, and just dealing like how you fuel with long rides and bike rides and just everything has been different. So I basically now I'm not a vegan. Now I just eat, I say whatever doesn't kill me.
Right.
I just eat it because I need calories at this point. And you'd be surprised how many things are also manufactured on the same lines as tree nuts, and I can't eat it. So it's definitely made me clean up my diet a lot,
probably less processed packaged foods, more.
I really can't. I just eat a lot of home cooked meals, which is great. But sometimes on the go or flying and being in airports, it is super frustrating.
Yeah, and probably scary and stressful sometimes, I'm sure.
Very stressful.
Oh, wow. That's a big transition. Do you have any more stressful things? Not like that's not enough stress, but.
Yeah, this year definitely hasn't gone the way anybody would like to hope it would go. My first race I missed due to my peanut allergies, being in the hospital and being on medicine and not training. My second race, I was pulled off the course for hypothermia. My body temperature was 94 degrees. That was my first pro debut race, and I got pulled off the course. So that was frustrating. And then the race I did following that, I had like amazing swim, PR'd my swim, awesome bike, feeling great. I got off my bike and I made some changes to my bike the week before, which I shouldn't have, because when I got off, my hip just completely seized up, couldn't walk, and had to pull out of that race. So mentally, these last 6 months have not been easy because I just feel like nothing has been going the way I want it to go, even though I'm putting in all these hours.
And you're doing all the right things. If it makes you feel better, my very first day as a professional track and field athlete, I was diagnosed with a stress fracture in my back and had to skip the whole season and didn't get to compete for 9 months. So we all have to go through a lot. And I think it's a good reminder to talk with other people and be like, look, it's not a straight line. It's not easy. We all go through stuff, and you're clearly like having a good attitude through all this and trying to get through it.
And that's like, that sucks to hear, but it's also makes me feel good because every other like pro athlete, male or female, that I've talked to about like these kind of just mental struggles of just like, sometimes race doesn't go to plan. Sometimes your season just sucks and you just don't know why. Every single one I've talked to, they all have similar stories. So I'm like, okay, maybe it's not just me.
Yeah.
Because it is hard to kind of keep that like positive mindset, like day in after day in.
Well, and I think you see your heroes in the sport, and you as the outsider only remember the positive things of their career. You don't know or remember the races they bonked or the times they were hurt. And it's always a good reminder to reach out to the other, you know, women in sport, men and women in sport, to be like, I'm going through this. Have you been through this before?
Totally.
So that's a great transition to my last question for you today. What would you tell a young triathlete trying to get their pro card, and what advice would you give them to kind of push through the bad times and maybe give them a little tidbit of advice?
Okay, so some advice I would have is to have a plan, and not in the sense of like a step 1, step 2, step 3, but have a plan in the sense of know what you're doing and why you're doing it. Like, why are you going after this goal of being a pro athlete? Are you doing it to be the best in the world? Are you doing it just because it's like something to do? Or because you want to inspire other women and men out there to go chase their dreams? I think as long as you have that why, that's super important, and that'll drive you when things aren't going your way, or when you're having tough workouts and you just think like, this is stupid. Why am I doing this? Just always remember your why. And sometimes it changes, and that's okay. And also remember to have fun. I think that was difficult for me in the beginning because I felt the need to now take on this like pro athlete persona. And I kind of got reminded like, hey, Kayla, remember why you got into this? Like, you did this because it was fun. Where sometimes it doesn't feel as fun, but at the end of the day, as long as you're having fun with it, I would say keep going. And the last piece of advice is, I would say, life is not a spreadsheet. You can have an idea of like what your year is going to look like, or your 5-year plan, but it probably is not going to go that way. There are going to be bumps in the road, and workouts are going to be missed.
Allergies found.
Allergies are going to come up. You just got to roll with it and just kind of learn from all those little speed bumps.
Well, and I think it's good to remind people that life is not a spreadsheet, and no one gets away with a career injury-free or 100% success rate of races. And if it was, it wouldn't be a fun sport. You know, sport would be boring.
Totally.
So it's definitely, I think, when you're the person who's going through the pits of it all, it feels like you're the only person to have experienced the difficulties.
Totally.
And then you sit down and you talk with someone and you're like, wow, I would have no idea that you went through all of those things. One, because you have a good attitude, but two, like, you've had success. And so I remember another Nuun athlete, her name's Kara Goucher. She's one of my dear friends. I reached out to her. She didn't make a world championship team the same year that I had my back injury. And I'd never met her. She was just like a hero of mine. And I just DM'd her on Twitter and was like, oh, don't worry, I didn't make the team either, and that's okay. Like, we'll just have a fun summer instead of training and whatever. And I never met her or knew her. But that was like the start of a great friendship and of a relationship of confiding in someone when things are crappy, and then them reciprocating it when you're the one that needs that pickup. And I think that's what's really fun about what we're doing here is you get to hear stories of other women, and everyone has a different path.
And it's not always easy, because it's not like this is the kind of stuff that we always talk about on social media, right? Now with social media being so big, it's like, oh, I'm just going to post these amazing runs I did, but I'm not actually going to tell you that
this hurt, this hurt, this hurt.
Right. And my shin was going to, blow up, and I was actually hating every second of it. But it's very easy to get caught up in that of like, wow, look at all these things she's doing, and look at her training, and everything just must be so great. When it's like, well,
Yeah.
It might not be.
I agree. And I think the people that I've encountered in my life who have the most whole picture presented of themselves out in the world are the people who have the most whole picture of themselves to themselves. You know what I mean? Like, and it's people that I think the circle that you surround yourself with is huge for that. And they can be your sounding board and they can call you out if you're, you know, like to the people that reminded you, like, remember you got into this sport because
for fun.
Yeah. And I think when you can have people in your life to support your dreams and love you unconditionally, but also be honest with you. And it makes you feel better when you're going through bad times or when you go through hard transitions or when a race doesn't go well, because you're like, well, I know who I am and I might put a 5% prettier version out on the internet, but I know who I am. And like, I think the people in my life at least have really helped support me. And it sounds like your family and your boyfriend have been huge at, especially in this transition and the first year as a pro, having so many bumps. That's like, you rely on them so heavily.
Totally. And I think a harder part for me is like asking for help, because I am a very independent person. Like I don't like to rely on other people, but at the same time, like, yeah, you can only go through so many little speed bumps without needing that reassurance of other people. And it is super frustrating when, you know, my family can be as supportive as they can be, but it's also hard because there's a part of me that's like, well, you don't actually understand because you don't know how it feels to like give up your job and to put in all these hours of training and to not get the results you want. So that's why it's been really nice talking to other athletes, because it's like they really get it.
We're very vulnerable as athletes. And I think we seem so tough on the exterior because physically we can go through a lot of pain. We can be really mentally tough. We can handle a lot, but it's really vulnerable standing on a starting line and being like, well, I've put myself out here and I let the world know what my goal for this was. And I gotta just see what I got. And it's a little scary and you can have bad days and injuries and things happen. Or especially if you have
like expectations of other people expecting you to maybe like win a race, right? That puts then like added pressure.
Do you thrive in that pressure or?
I do. Once the gun goes off.
Totally.
I do. I hate the
hour
30 minutes before the race. Absolutely hate it. My skin's crawling. My stomach's in a knot. But once the gun goes off, I love it.
Yeah.
I'm like, great.
The gun goes off and literally every time the gun goes off, I, in my head say, here we go. And it's like, that's the part that we know we're in our element then. The gun goes off and it's just instinct and it's
don't
doing
even have to think.
Right.
You just
and
go.
Usually you start your warm up an hour before and then about 20 minutes before the race, you get put in a call room. And so you're gathered with your 10 competitors and you're sitting this close to them and you're like, hey, you know, but I am friends with a lot of my competitors. So it's not too awkward, but you're just still so nervous. And we've experienced it dozens and dozens of times. And as I get older, I think I get better and better at handling that stress, but it's still like, you can't not be nervous before a race.
It's like that 1 hour just gives you all that time to think of either.
And you're alone in your own head. Yeah.
You're either thinking of everything you did right or everything you could have done or should have done, or, oh, I missed that workout 2 weeks ago. What if that's going to derail this race? And you just.
Or you find something that hurts that's never hurt ever before that you're like, oh, my elbow. Oh, I don't know if I can run. Yeah. It is weird though that when the gun goes off as athletes, we just go and we just do. And anyway, I know we got off topic there, but I feel like we can relate on a lot of things. And that's what's super fun is like getting to talk with athletes in totally different events and industries and everything and realizing that we all share 95% of the same thoughts and feelings about things.
Absolutely.
And so we're all really the same. And so that's it for us. Thank you for joining me today and keep watching Nuuness TV. We'll have more guests coming soon. Thanks.